You're listening to The Last Easy Mile, a show for men who know there's more waiting but aren't sure where to begin. I'm Josh Farahi. Whether it's carving out space for adventure, being a more present and intentional father, reconnecting with your physical edge, or rediscovering a forgotten skill, this podcast is about moving from stuck to in motion. Each episode explores that in-between moment, right before the leap, when the excuses run out and something real needs to begin. We cover fatherhood, work, faith, creativity, and what it means to keep showing up, especially when no one's coming to rescue you. Welcome to The Last Easy Mile. Let's walk it together. I was raised with Judeo-Christian values, and so please, be yourself.
Great.
Be completely yourself. That's why you're here. So don't hold anything back. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, great. I'm supposed to be a partner in a public accounting firm somewhere. At least that's what I thought. That's my degree. I'm a CPA by background and have a business degree and did that for 12 years, which I'm glad I did. I met my wife in the business college at Western Michigan. So if I hadn't gone that way, right? We were both accountants and, but it became clear, I don't know at what point, but at some point about halfway through, it became clear that that's not where I was going to retire, that there was something else that I was destined to be doing. So Josh, believe it or not, I actually went back to school at night while I was full-time at E&Y because I thought I wanted to become a teacher. I had always loved teaching young people, working with young people. We had volunteered in our church, worked with youth ministry. And so I actually went back to become a middle or high school teacher because I loved that age group. But the Lord made it pretty clear that I had misinterpreted that direction in education. And so I abandoned a 90% finished master's degree and went into ministry full time in 2009 and left my career in business, went into student ministry and started, working with middle school students. I ran a large youth group at a church here in Grand Rapids and also did a lot of church finance. Josh, it was a really weird job. Not only did I do youth ministry, but I also did like the finances of the church, which you never find those two things right in the same place. But if you think about sort of human history in terms of digital history, I was in that job from 2009 to 2016. So that's when we decided to give children technology.
Right.
That's when we started to hand kids iPhones. And I always kind of point to the iPhone 5. That was the turning point. Because that was the device that in around 2012, the parents started to hand down to their kids.
Right.
They had one. And so I make the joke all the time is I had boxes full of hoodies and coats and Bibles that kids would leave at youth group, but the iPhone became their prized possession. They started to carry it. And I don't know, there was something about putting 100 million people and 100 million choices into the pockets of 12-year-olds that was unsettling to me. It felt like a bad idea. I knew what my decision-making process was like at that point in time. I had worked with middle schoolers long enough to go, this is a bad idea. And so I simply just started doing some research. I put a close Facebook group together and that grew as others in the community were like, hey, we want this information. Word kind of got out through a news story that took place in 2015. And so I launched the website Protect Young Eyes in 2015 is just a way to educate parents. I never expected it to be anything more than just a tool, right? It was this idea that I was a consultant for many years. So I saw a problem and I needed to fix that problem. So it was that consulting mindset and it was a risk situation. My job at Ernst & Young was to large companies. I would mitigate risk. I was a risk manager. That was my job. So I saw an enormous amount of risk that we were putting into the pockets of kids and parents just had no idea. And sort of you layer on top of all of that background where I had been exposed to pornography. I had compulsively used pornography as a young adult. When the internet comes out and we all sort of have this unfettered access to everything. And so I had put that behind me through Christ and accountability and just a lot of hard work. And then I watched just put that monster in kids' pockets, right? So sort of all of these things, my professional background, that addiction background, and my experience with kids led me to this. And about 2 years ago, I decided to jump into it full time and leave a really good marketing job that I had with Covenant Eyes that I went to after ministry. I'd used the service, and I went and ran their marketing department for a little while and really enjoyed that job. And again, about 2 years ago, it became pretty clear through divine intervention that
Yeah, sounds like it.
this was the direction that I needed to go to. So I have a team that travels the country. We do talks now, even internationally. I'll be heading to El Salvador and the Dominican Republic, and I've
Oh,
been to
wow.
Mexico and Canada,
Oh,
and
good for
so
you.
trying to get
Yeah.
the word out. So
Yeah, no, you're doing God's work, and it seems like, from a divine perspective, if you believe in the divine, it seems like you were the perfect candidate, right? I mean, it's just the way you kind of found it, or it found you. It seems like you were the perfect fit, and I think you're doing really honorable work. And for a parent like me, and really all parents now, where I think over the last 5 years, I would say, or there's maybe been kind of a revolution, if you will,
mhm.
because you were ahead of your time. I think in 2012 you said, or with iPhone 5, whenever that was, and well, you saw the risk, right? And my firstborn was born in 2016. I have 3 kids. I have a son and 2 daughters, ages 8, 6, and 3. So I'm
Yeah.
not there yet, but I see my friends with older kids and teenagers, and this revolution that's kind of starting, where people recognizing this is dangerous stuff, and it should have been more obvious, and good for you for kind of recognizing it early and mobilizing. But for the challenges for parents, it's even now, like when my kids are watching TV or they're streaming something, I have all the restrictions set up, but I don't really know what they're watching. My son loves to watch Minecraft videos on YouTube, for example. So
Right.
I don't let him watch YouTube, right? But once in a while, if as a treat or something, if he wants to watch a Minecraft video on YouTube, I'll let him watch it on my phone. But then I walk away, and I really don't know what he's looking at, right? And he's
Yeah.
only 8, and
He's
this is
8.
going to the pressure is going to increase, right? Because as parents, we're not all aligned yet, right? So some families have let their kids have unfettered access. Some families a little bit more strict. And so, what do you advise? Like, what? There's so much out there. Like, what do we do?
Well, I still kind of see the world through that sort of left brain framework spreadsheet. So I like to take that question and I'm going to put it into a framework because that helps me and my dad guy brain make sense of things, right? Give me a picture, give me
Sure.
a diagram, give me a flow chart. Just to back up a step. So I have 4 children, a father to 4. I have a daughter who's 20, entering her junior year in college. And then I have 3 boys who are going into 8th, ninth, and 10th grade this fall. So
It's
we've got
right in
sort
the
of
thick of it.
right in the
Yeah.
thick of it, right there.
Yeah.
In fact, right before this call, I was getting pings from Bark, which is a service that we use because my son was adding new contacts to his phone and I have to approve all those contacts, right? I'm right in it, stumbling and bumbling through the digital age. Like a lot of the dads probably listen to this and
Yeah.
watching this. So what do we do, right? So I think it involves multiple layers. So what we teach at Protect Young Eyes are 5 habits that we want present in every home. Habits that when done over and over again, persistently and consistently, I think have a really good chance of decreasing that risk to a spot where it's acceptable. We can never eliminate all digital risk unless we just
That
don't
makes
use
sense.
it,
Sure.
right? Unless we just go purely analog, which is really almost impossible. But my goal is to mitigate that risk to a level where it's acceptable and manageable. And when something does get through, there's monitoring in place so that you can intervene, right? So that's just sort of at a high level what my objective is here with these 5 habits, okay? So
Okay.
habit number 1 is we model the right behaviors, right? We display our own use of technology as showing our children. And it's not that we need to be anti-tech or with our own use. I understand that as parents and as dads, we have email, we have calls, we have to do work, we have to check on grades, the phone is the mechanism by which we do certain things as an adult. I get that. But our children need to see a healthy interaction. We need to show them what it means to use it as a tool and not have it be using us. We need to
Right.
show them what we call the sweetness of doing nothing. We need to show them as parents squaring up as dads and giving them our full attention, because until you actually think about it, you don't realize how infrequently we actually square up and look at our kids, right? So
Right.
that's modeling the right behaviors. Then we pursue authentic connection. A full calendar and a full busy life does not mean a full heart and a full connection with your kids. Are you pursuing the heart of your child? Are you listening more than you're talking to them? Are you actively learning and then building digital trust with them? One calm conversation after another. So dads, this is where I need you to listen to me, because this is where we have to have a conversation about anger. This is where we have to have a conversation about what I would call the weaponization of our God-given authority as fathers. We have a unique ability, given the position that we're in, given the tone even of our voice, given these factors that I think are created inside of us. We have the unique opportunity to be the rock on which our children stand on and find stability, or the rock that crushes them and creates instability in their life.
Sure.
That is our unique position as fathers. And so in the digital age, where it is inevitable that your child will make a stupid mistake, right now decide how you're going to respond to that. Right now decide to respond with calm, because our anger as fathers has never compelled our children to become a better version of themselves.
Yeah, that's right.
It makes us feel better about ourselves, and it never helps them. Right. So to pursue authentic connection is really our work on us before it's figuring out what to do to connect to them. And
Sure.
that's then us having very proactive conversations about all the things we hope never happen to them, whether it's pornography or predators, right? This is all within pursuing authentic connection. The third habit is to pursue work and play, or to encourage work and play, right? We need them to be chores and working and doing things with their hands. We also need them playing and getting outside, right? The play-based childhood that so many have heard through Jonathan Haidt's work at The Anxious Generation, right? So model the right behaviors, pursue authentic connection, encourage work and play. Then we delay addictive technologies. This is where we're not anti-technology, but we are pro-childhood. And we prevent addictive technologies based on what you know about your kids and how their brain is and what their tendencies are, to know what they can and can't handle. Not every kid can handle Minecraft because they can't put it down.
Right.
Not every kid can handle Fortnite. I'm not anti-video game. I think some can be collaborative even between father and son. I think some can be connective between peers, but not all kids have brains that can handle some of the ways in which games are designed today.
Right. I think Fortnite, not to interrupt you, but Fortnite is getting sued, I think, by a parent advocate group, because it's built in a way that draws kids in and doesn't let them go. There's no end to the game.
You're exactly right. No, you're exactly right. And that's where some kids can't handle it. We need to know our kids well enough. By number 2, pursue an authentic connection. We know them well enough to know what addictive technologies it can and can't handle. And then the last one is we diligently prevent harm. And that's by using tools that protect the technologies that we use. So routers with filters, software like Bark that I described. We keep kids out of bedrooms with their devices. These are layers of protection that we wrap around our kids. And we have all kinds of things written all about that. So that's a 5-minute overview of the 5 habits. We do a 90-minute presentation hundreds of times a year to groups of parents and to caregivers. We have a ton of information on our website, in our social media feeds about these. In particular, Josh, that last one, the diligently prevent harm. Because we need parents to understand the importance of the router. We need parents to understand how to set up controls on smart TVs and Chromebooks and Kindles. We need parents to understand that there are places that even as adults, we need to be careful and avoid what we call the toxic trio, which is bedrooms, boredom, and darkness. Whenever bedrooms, boredom, and darkness and digital spaces coexist, you put yourself, as my friends in the Catholic Church would say, in the near occasion of sin. Like you line yourself up for temptation with bedrooms, boredom, and darkness. So that's the toxic trio. So those are things that, dads listening, watching this, please do a little bit of research on our site to learn about these habits and to learn about these layers of protection, because we explain step by step, every device, every app, how to do this with all of them.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. That's a well thought out plan. And I agree with everything you just said. I know a lot of folks and parents are worried about video games. What when it comes to video games? Okay, let's take a step back. So, do you classify every screen time activity as the same? Is there a hierarchy of things that are a bit more susceptible to danger versus others? Okay, I just don't know if you guys have categorized it in a way that explains what is the riskiest activities.
Yeah. So, I mean, anything that allows children to interact with algorithms or other people are automatically going to be in sort of a tier, right? Where
Right.
you're now the technology is trying to draw them in, right? So now
Hmm.
you're dealing with an attention issue. But we also don't want them interacting with others. You also want to look for games. And this is the thing, Josh, almost every game, every app, I don't care if it's rated 4 plus or 9 plus from the App Store, 9 times out of 10, 99 out of 100 times, I can find a hidden browser that'll get me to Google that will let me watch porn on that app. Like
No.
that's just,
Seriously?
I could pull up Pornhub on the Bible app right now.
Oh my God. That's wild.
Right? Because, and
Wow.
that's not a Bible. I mean, it is, there's a design issue there. There's a software issue there, but many apps have like in-app browsing that often doesn't obey, and you can find it through terms and conditions. And then you click on the Google Analytics link that's in terms and
Wow.
conditions that brings up Google. You click on privacy in Google, and now you have an unfiltered search bar,
Wow.
and you've never left the Bible app, and you can get to
Wow.
anything. So,
Only took you 18 minutes to blow my mind there, Chris. And kids are so smart and so savvy that they'll find any little link that they can get to. That's wild. Okay.
yeah, and it's this isn't. I mean, I've got the Bible app on my phone. This isn't banging on the Bible app, and I
No, no, I
love Life
know.
Church. But I
Yeah,
mean, this is
yeah.
this is a software issue. This is a technology issue, which is why we need multiple layers of protection here, so that kids can't get to that kind of content. Which goes back to what I described before. So back to your question about video games. At a high level, I am not anti-video game, right? So my sons, who I said are going to the 8th, ninth, and 10th grade. They're ages 13, 15, and 15. So I have a set of twins who are different grades.
Yeah, good for you.
And my 15-year-old plays Fortnite in my office on our family PC that we have with his buddy Jacob, who goes to a different school. So that's how they also do Boy Scouts together. So they're good friends. We know the family. I know Jacob. I walk into the room all the time and I'll just jokingly say, "Hey, Jacob, stop swearing." Like, and I know he's not, but I mean, to me,
All right.
to me, there's a reason to do that as a reminder that they know that adults are aware of what they're doing, right?
Sure.
It has
Yeah.
much more meaning than just the joking and that I know Jacob and I know his dad and so forth. So my 13-year-old also loves video games and probably has a more addictive personality. And I've seen this play out where it's a little bit harder in years past for him to put it down. We've worked through that, but I had to work a lot harder in teaching him how to manage his screen time, where I would put on the microwave. I wasn't trying to catch him doing something wrong. I'd say, "Hey, bud, you got 10 more minutes, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put 9 minutes and 30 seconds on the microwave. I'm going to own 95% of you being done in 10 minutes. And then you just have the last 30 seconds to know that that's what you've got to bring it to me and to get it done." Good. And we practiced that. We got that. He got good at that. And then I ticked it back to 9 minutes. And so that took some time. And that's, I think, what it takes as a digital dad to do these things with our kids. So, yeah, I've bounced around a little bit in video games. I think the overall message is I think they can be fun. I think as a dad to sit down shoulder to shoulder, because what I've found, especially with young boys, this isn't I mean, daughters play games too. I get that. But as a former middle school youth pastor, if middle school boys' hands are moving, their mouth is often moving too.
Hmm.
Like if you're just staring at them and saying, "Let's have a serious conversation," it's crickets, man. You get nothing.
Right.
You get nothing.
Yes.
But
Yes.
if you're throwing a ball, kicking something, if their body is in motion, then their
Yes.
words are often more frequently in motion. And so I think video games can be a way to break open some conversation sometimes, in addition
No,
to yes,
100%.
getting outside.
Yeah.
So we're big
Yeah.
fans of co-play, but you just got to make sure that you've done your homework. Do they have that in-app risk that I talked about? Do they have content? So this is where, as a parent, as a dad, it's the 7-day rule. So the 7-day rule is, I don't care if your young son wants to download something from Disney or something that looks totally cartoonish. You download it as a dad for 7 days. You use it as a
Mm-hmm.
child with a kid's profile, and you see what ads show up. You see what different levels do. You see what pop-ups show up, because you and I both know a lot of games have in-app ads, which then they hide the
Yep.
little X. It's hard to find. So we almost always recommend any kid who's going to be playing a game on a phone, always upgrade to the ad-free version for the 99 cents or the $1.99. It's always worth it, but play it for 7 straight days before you ever give anything to your kids. And then you'll have an idea, and you can ask curious questions about it, and that builds conversation, and they know you've been involved, and there's nothing they can hide, and you get back to that
Sure.
pursuing authentic connection. So you can see how it all starts to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. I never even occurred to me. I just kind of look at the app. I read the reviews. I'll look at the couple screenshots and go from there. I mean, listen, my kids are still relatively young, but you just scared me half to death with this porn thing, being able to access it from other things. So I think upgrading to the ad-free one is a good one, because I think that eliminates some sort of loophole. So going back to your kind of 5 layers here, or 5 key things, the prevent harm, I think is one I'd like to kind of expand on a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you touched on no
Yeah.
no screens in the bedrooms, which I think is huge. But what other guardrails
Yep.
do you suggest?
Yeah, I went over those, and dads listening to this, there's really practical, tactical things that we hook to each of those habits, right? So there's a habit framework that I went through, and then in the last habit, which is diligently prevent harm, I
Mhm.
want everybody to picture a pyramid. Okay, so imagine like the pyramids in Egypt, just imagine a pyramid. And imagine that there are 5 layers in that pyramid. So you've cut 4 lines across it. So you have a wide base at the bottom all the way up to a thin part at the top, because you've got these 5 parallel layers stacked on top of each other. That's how we talk about diligently preventing harm. And if
Mhm.
you were to visit our website or visit our social media accounts on Instagram or Facebook, you would see this pyramid. We talk about this all the time. Like, this is our thing, because the base, it's ordered very intentionally. The base is the firm foundation. And then at the top, although important, and a pyramid is ugly without the top, it's the weakest part, right? If you were to turn it upside down, it would crumble, because that's the weakest
Right.
part, and put it
Right.
on. So each of those 5 layers within diligently prevent harm is ordered very intentionally. The bottom layer is relationship. That is the digital trust. That is the pursuing connection. Those are the relational aspects that don't replace. I mean, there are not enough pieces of software on earth to replace the need for us to be intentionally, calmly connected to our children in the digital age, and reminding them over and over again, like a divine algorithm, of the things that
Mhm.
are significant and important, right?
That's right.
Um, Layer number 2 is the network layer, the Wi-Fi layer. So this is where we get into some of the technical. So there's relational and technical layers. The first technical
Okay.
layer is the Wi-Fi layer. And especially in a home like yours, who has young children who only use devices that get online through Wi-Fi because they don't have SIM cards, cell plans, or smartphones
Right.
yet, that means that your router, all dads of young kids, your router is the most important digital device you own. It is the number one way to prevent what we were, referred to as early accidental childhood exposure. It's not
Mhm.
often that a 4-year-old or an 8-year-old is intentionally typing Pornhub into a browser unless they heard it on the playground. But they
Right.
may be curious about dinosaurs, and
Right.
T-Rex and the R gets turned into an S, and now Google shows all kinds of images, and curiosity
Right.
is weaponized in a way that they're going to keep clicking, because who wouldn't? And that's not their fault. And a router
Yeah.
can
Right.
prevent those accidental curious moments that are inevitable when you're connected to 100 million people and 100 million
100%.
choices, right? So we have a ultimate router post. Maybe it can be in the show notes to this that is
It will.
really helpful to walk, because that's, not everybody loves thinking about your router. It's kind of technical.
Yeah, yeah.
You put it
I mean,
behind
Chris, I gotta tell you, I consider myself pretty tech savvy. And I'm a pretty protective father. It never even occurred to me to
Yep.
to like go to the router. So I will definitely put that in the show notes.
The most important device. This is, I just wrote all about this on Jonathan Haidt's website because he was even fascinated by this as a focus. He had never written or talked about that much before. And so they asked me to put a piece together all about protecting kids from porn, but a lot written about the router. And that was back in July, here in 2025, depending on whenever you be listening to this. But so that's layer number 2. Layer number 3 is the device layer. So all the devices that they're using are maybe going to connect to other Wi-Fi, which means, let's say, Josh, you get your network all handled at home. What happens when that Kindle or that Chromebook travels to grandma's house or travels to someone else's house?
Right.
And they don't have the same sort of network controls in place. That means every device has to go with its own controls. So think of the router and a device like belt and suspenders. Both are needed in the digital age. And we do that in the physical world, right? Just because a car has great tires doesn't mean we forget the seatbelts. Just because they have great tires and great seatbelts doesn't mean we forget the car seat. In the physical world, we are always using redundancies of protection around our children. And that's exactly the spirit of what we're talking about here. And then when it comes to smart devices, which don't need Wi-Fi, that's why you use Apple's controls and Android's controls and Chromebook, right, which is an Android platform, all of those. And that's step by step, the stuff that gets really complicated really fast, which is why we have device guides all over our website, under the device section to walk dads and moms and everybody through these sorts of things. So that's layer 3. So we got relationship, we got Wi-Fi, we got device. Then there's that location layer. And there are not only the bedroom, we already talked about the toxic trio, but there are 5 places that I think increase the risk of digital harm. And that's bedrooms, bathrooms, school buses, sleepovers, and grandma and grandpa's house. Those are the 5 places that are riskier, because if it's been forever or never that you, as an intentional dad, has never thought about your router, I guarantee your parents have never, ever thought about their router.
No, I don't think my parents know what a router is.
Exactly, right? And so kids go over to grandma and grandpa's house. Grandma and grandpa will hand them a tablet to watch something, maybe even their own iPhone to do something. And I've received multiple messages from parents whose kids then navigated into something curiously at grandma and grandpa's house and saw porn on grandma's phone or watched something. And here's the thing. It's not just porn that we're trying to prevent. I think every dad listening to this is going to be like, yes, I don't want my son to see that. But if that's all we're caring about, then we've missed a ton of what mature adult content that they're just not ready for.
Sure.
And I think that stuff flies way under the radar here. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. And then the last layer after relationship, the router, the device, the location is the app layer. So whatever apps they're using, it could be Netflix, it could be Disney Plus, it could be Fortnite, it could be Minecraft, whatever app they're using, YouTube, right? And I want to connect YouTube back to it's not just a porn problem. You have to enable the controls in the app, and they're at the top of the pyramid because they're the weakest. I am not trusting Google with the protection of my kids. Right?
Yeah, I always thought that.
When it comes to social media, Mark Zuckerberg is not going to be the one I'm going to trust on Instagram with the protection of my daughter, for example. So they're at the top and we enable what they've got, but they're number 5 on the list and we're doing all the other things, right? So to circle back to YouTube, which is the bane of every parent's existence.
Yes, 100%.
Right?
I hate YouTube.
I hate it. And I love it. And I use it and I hate it.
Yeah,
and I love it and I use it.
And I love it. That's right.
It's the way we all feel about it. I am not a handy man, but YouTube helps me fix things and look at least like I know something.
Right.
And we'll extend this conversation to ChatGPT in just a minute because that's the next frontier. But, YouTube shows our children way too much adult content way too soon.
Yes.
I have a friend of mine who out west does a ton of work like this in schools all over the West. Really popular. Officer Gomez, some have maybe talked to him. We've interacted. I've worked with him on different things. And we've talked about this. Josh, you can go into a room of 8th grade boys, let's say, just pure 8th grade boys. And if you stood in the back of the room and said, okay, I want everyone to kind of put your heads down. I'm going to ask everybody a question. And I want you to answer this anonymously. Raise your hand if you have ever been shown or have seen online, YouTube or other places, shown or seen through the algorithm, somebody killed or beheaded. And 20% of the room will raise their hand pretty consistently.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay, we've prevented porn, but what about that?
Yeah.
What is that doing to desensitize and to just show young brains too much too soon?
Yeah, 100%.
This is you think of the spectrum of mature adult content, right? How many 8-year-olds are ready to watch a couple fighting in their marriage to understand what that means? How many 8-year-olds are going to be able to watch a video and the show Jackass that used to be on when I was a kid, right? And watching adult men being ridiculous with, tricks and, like throwing themselves down a hill with a shopping cart and flying out of it, and landing on. How do they comprehend some of that adult information in their 8-year-old brain? It creates way too much chaos and confusion. And for some kids, trauma where they can't sleep, they have nightmares, right? And none of that's porn.
Right.
So I just want us to be aware of the fact that every digital space where our kids want to spend time has radically different goals than we do as dads.
Sure. And you answered a question I was going to ask, which was, sure, there's porn, but there's all this other content that you don't want your kids on. And so does the router, funnel at home? I think that kind of mitigates a lot of that as well, because sure, you get rid of the porn, but there's other content that you can filter out, right?
Yes. So this is where it's important to understand what a router can and can't do. A router is extremely effective in browsers like Chrome, Google, right? Those browsers or Safari, because websites have a category. Like websites are categorized as gambling, violent, lingerie, porn, all these. And so you can use routers to block categories of websites. Okay.
Right.
That's not true in an app environment.
Right. I was going to say, once you filter into the apps, it's kind of like the Wild West, right?
It's the Wild West. It's encrypted content. Routers can't do anything to filter out violence in TikTok. Routers can't do anything to filter out, mature interactions on the YouTube app. That's where you're kind of stuck with YouTube's app level controls.
Right.
Because the router isn't working. And so you can start to see why the multiple layers are necessary.
Sure.
That's right.
Sure.
So,
Chris, what do you think? And this is kind of the question of the moment, right? Is like, when are these kids ready for a smartphone? In your estimation, and in your experience,
sure.
Because I think, to your point, the iPhone 5 era, everyone was just handing out, these devices. They were cool. Now I'm like, geez, I just want my kids to have a flip phone until they're like 25, which is obviously not going to work either. So, where do you guys land on, how do you advise parents on timing of this stuff?
Well, for a long time, we've said, no child who isn't in high school needs a smartphone. They don't need the internet in their pocket. And that's reinforced by what Jonathan Haidt is saying.
Yeah.
We started off back in 2015. We started off by saying no social media till age 15 at that point in time. And everybody thought we were crazy. What's wrong? It's fine, right?
Right.
We've moved that. And, since then, TikTok didn't even exist at that point in time, right? We didn't have, Instagram at that point was literally just pictures. It wasn't vanishing messages. It wasn't a map that shows your precise location. It wasn't everything that it is today, which is essentially Snapchat called Instagram. So we moved that up to 16 years ago. And again, that's now supported by what Jonathan Haidt says in The Anxious Generation. But it also comes down to right kid, right tech, right time. And there's all kinds of training that goes on, right? So my 13-year-old son, for example, he's had a Gab phone. He had a Gab watch when he was in 5th and 6th grade. Talk, text, GPS.
Right.
In 7th grade last year, he got a Gab phone, which is, again, just talk, text, GPS, but it was shaped like a phone. Okay. This weekend, I know that doesn't mean much here in a podcast, but relative to when I'm having this conversation to you, this weekend, I'm going to upgrade him to a Bark phone, which is slightly more mature, gives him a little more freedom. He's now in 8th grade, but this morning, I received 10 different notifications because he's adding contacts to this phone, and I have to approve all of the contacts that he's interacting with. And I can see everything that's happening on the phone, right? So there's this training process that's going on, like driving a car, like anything, like hunter safety, whatever you want, illustration you want to use.
Yeah, 100%.
There's a training and mentoring that's going on here where, hey, I want you to watch me. This is modeling. He's been watching me use technology for years. Okay, then let's do it together for a little while. Okay, now let me watch you do it for a little while. And eventually when he's 16 or so, then you can do it, right? So it's the same process we use for anything that's hard or significant.
Right. Well, that's the thing is we've been fooled to some degree, because I think as parents
100%.
we're wired to like protect our kids physically. That's our first primal instinct, and then to nurture them in the house. And then this new technology comes on the scene in one generation, and you hand it to your kid. You're like, oh, it's okay, it's harmless, it's pictures, it's this. But as we've gotten smarter about it, it's been a disaster. Girls are committing suicide at higher rates. I don't know if that curve is flattened. I'm sure you can answer that. We've kind of let the fox into the hen house here, and we have to be more mindful about how we manage this stuff. And it's super stressful because the pressure as a parent is the friends are doing it, the friends aren't doing it. And so some parents are allowing it, right? And so your daughter or son wants it, and then it's another thing you can't give them that their friends have.
Right.
So that's why I think, kind of moving on to my next question is, I know that you're advocating, you're taking a step out of the house. How do we get into the schools and either private schools or public schools to get this to that momentum into there, where they don't allow these things in the schools? I know that's happening. I know Jonathan Haidt's working on it.
Yeah.
What do you guys do in that perspective, or what do you recommend parents do with the schools?
All right. So you're ready for more layers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So again, another flow chart. So there are 5 layers in society that are responsible for preventing our children from experiencing egregious harm during what we call this one precious childhood. Okay. So it starts at home. Home is the most significant, most influential layer. We must own what we can control, right? I know that other parents are making different decisions. And this is what's a little bit, what we have to realize is there's something insidious about technology that's different than other pressures that have existed in childhood in the past. Technology makes our children happy because it's dopamine.
Sure.
And dopamine is a good neurotransmitter in human beings because it motivates us toward stimuli that are helpful for our existence and ongoing thriving. It makes our kids happy. Now, most of the parents that I know and most of the parents want happy kids.
Right.
And so it's a weaponization of our good impulse as parents to want to make our kids happy.
Right. Well said.
And technology does that. So I think we just need to be mindful of that. And that's where I want us to own what we can control. And dads, I need more of us stepping into this space, because 98% of the advocacy work that is going on right now all over the world is what I call chief technology officer moms. They're the ones that are owning this. They're the ones doing this. They're the ones going to school board meetings and having conversations. They're the ones who are fighting for their kids. They're the ones testifying. They're the ones doing most of the work right now, dads. So I need you to step up and more of us to own more of this. So I'll just put that's the home. We've got to own that.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
So that's home. Schools also have a responsibility. We need to teach digital literacy with the same amount of vigor as we teach math. Like
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
that important.
Yeah.
We are entering an
Yeah.
age where intellect will no longer separate those who do and don't do things, because ChatGPT will be smarter
Hmm.
than every genius human on earth.
Yep.
Intellect will no longer separate us. Therefore, those who know how to use technology in good, positive, God-honoring ways, and they know how it's constructed, and they know how to still look at another human and talk to them, are going to be those
Yeah.
who differentiate themselves from others. Schools need to do that. Places of worship need to be doing, right? So we have homes, schools, places of worship are doing an
Agreed.
abysmal job of owning this darkening of childhood. Like once a month, every pulpit, every sermon series on earth needs to speak very specifically on this issue, because there's nothing that is damaging families and kids more than this issue right now. So
It's the issue of our generation as
it
parents,
is.
for sure. Number
It
one.
is.
I mean, and it's probably the biggest challenge parents have had since the beginning of time, as it relates to keeping our kids' mental health in place, right? I
Right.
mean, this is so unnatural. This thing,
Yep.
even us as adults, I get sucked into Instagram, and I'm not, and I know that it's sucking me in, and then I'll look up, and 15 minutes has gone by. I didn't even know what happened. So as an adult, if that's happening to me, imagine what's happening to your 13-year-old daughter or son, who's so susceptible to that dopamine kick.
Yeah.
Um, it's
So
wild, man.
it
And
is
and what's
wild.
what's AI going to do, right? So now they're talking about. I mean, you think video games are like immersive
Whoa.
now?
Nothing.
I mean, like, geez, like what it's going to happen in 10 years?
That's
So
right.
to your point, if you can't like, we didn't know what the algorithm was, or what an algorithm even was 5, 8, 7 years ago, whatever. And so it got us by surprise. And the algorithm is really what's putting your social world together. And it's a feedback loop. It's a positive feedback loop, right? So whatever you like, it's spitting back to you. It's reinforcing your likes and dislikes. So I have to tell my son when he's, when he's on YouTube and it suggests stuff for him. He's like, how does it know I like those stuff? So I need to explain to him that it's an echo chamber. It's going to close the world around you with your own likes and dislikes, and you're not going to be able to learn and learn new things. You have to know that that's out there.
That's right.
Do you guys do any like education on teaching kids about the algorithm specifically, or is that all? So when you say that the pastors and other uh,
Schools.
schools need to
Yep.
educate their kids, do you have suggestions for them? How much do you advocate directly to schools, and how can we as dads get involved and support you in that endeavor?
Yeah. So, these 5 layers in society are home, school, places of worship, then policy. We need laws that rein in abusive technologies, and then finally the companies themselves. Those are the 5, right?
Hmm.
So so with schools, we just wrote a piece that may be helpful. It's 6 questions to ask every principal about school technology. How well do you know what sort of harms, privacy, and protection is in place when your kid is online at school, right? Who is
Right.
monitoring the network at school? Who is making sure that when kids are getting into trouble on the network, that is being reflected up to parents? It's just not enough to have a filter. If there's a kid who's constantly trying to look up inappropriate things at school and is getting filtered and stopped, that's great. But what happens when they get home and they find something that they can get through? What would happen if that school noticed that and was able to communicate to parents, hey, you might want to have a conversation, make sure that your router is in place, make sure, right? We talk about
Right.
bridging. So we work directly with, I've been, in the past 2 weeks, I've been in front of hundreds of principals in different districts and different dioceses and talking to them about these different issues and what they can do at the school level in order to better protect their kids. So this is where the different audiences need to get engaged, right? I know this is primarily towards dads, but dads understand what technology your kids are using at school and know what questions to ask. And if you want, for example, you are in a middle or a high school where they still allow kids to bring devices to school, stop being the voice that is fighting against taking them away. Too many parents are too fixated on having constant connection with their kids.
Right.
And it doesn't make kids safer during an active shooter situation to have access to their phone. It makes them more distracted, and it makes them less able to listen to the instructions that might keep them alive. right? So
Sure.
parents are the primary barrier between
Mm,
schools being phone free
It's
or
interesting.
schools not being phone
I
free.
didn't realize that. Yeah,
Yes.
I would think, parents would be on board. I mean,
Nope.
it's like putting a wolf in your kid's pocket. I mean, I really
It
look at it
is.
that way.
It
Yeah, I mean, it's
is.
no different.
And it's mostly right. I'm gonna say things that are a little bit nuclear for a minute. It's mostly right-leaning parents who believe strongly in parental rights and who want constant access to their kids all day long.
Is that right?
That's right.
That's the profile?
That's the
I would
profile.
think it's the opposite.
Nope,
But that's bizarre.
it is.
Huh.
I've had plenty of pushback, and so in both sides. I'm not. This isn't a blue
No,
or
no, I
red
get it.
thing. I'm
You're
saying
no, no, I hear
there's
you.
both
Yeah.
sides there. I could point
Yeah.
to other reasons why other worldviews think, but at the end of the day, parents get out of the way. The research is clear, and it's not just taking the phones away. Our kids deserve a distraction-free learning environment.
100%. 100%.
So we need to get out of the way.
Yeah. So I want to use this last 10 minutes to kind of how can we support you and your cause? I
Oh
know obviously
gosh,
let me know because I think I've said this a few times. You're really doing God's work. It is the fight of our generation. And I would love to support you guys in any way I can. Whether it's boots on the ground, financial support, whatever, what could we do to help folks like you that are out there fighting for our kids? I mean, ultimately that's what you're doing.
yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Josh. That means a ton. So, Protect Young Eyes is two organizations. One is a nonprofit, one is a for profit. The nonprofit side, this is where we write the policy. This is where we work with legislators. This is where we are interacting with students at schools. I have a team of presenters who go into schools and speak to students, kindergarten, 12th graders, whatever grade. We speak and teach them some of these ways that they can make good decisions, honorable decisions on their own. And so, if anybody wanted to donate toward us in that way, but use what we've got, spread the word on the sidelines, in your networks, with others, spread this information. Speak boldly about the decisions that you've made in your home, right? Own what you can control and share that with others. I think as fathers, we have plenty of other dads in our networks and others we can talk to, share our information. We just want it to be out there and helpful. I have spent thousands and thousands of hours of my life trying to create a website that is as step by step as helpful as possible. I just want it used, Josh. I just want it
Yeah.
used. So
Your website is killer. I mean, it's well put together, well organized. There's no gatekeeping, so you can go
that's
through it
right.
and access what you need.
Yeah.
Do you and you're obviously I know you do a lot of public speaking. Where are you? What's your main effort right now? Um, and do you ever come down to the West Coast? Because I could probably put a pretty good group together for you and raise some money for you guys if you ever wanted to.
Yeah, it's funny you asked. I was just looking in September, we come to California 4 times.
No way.
Yeah, we'll be in four different places in California. I was just up in Vancouver, Washington earlier this week, actually. So West Coast, East Coast, Midwest, where I'm at, we will travel. So if there's a school or a church or an organization that wants to bring us in and wants to organize some kind of community event, just reach out through our website. In any given school year, Josh, we do anywhere between 300 and 400 presentations with my team, and so we'd be happy to come.
So I think, what I'll try to do, and we can speak offline here, is I'll try to, we'll do a school and then maybe we can do a fundraiser for you guys. I have a lot of, if you're open to it, and then we can speak more
Yeah,
offline, but I
let's
have a
chat
lot
about
of
it.
families down here that need to hear what you have to say. Because, I mean, the problem is we know it's a problem, but we don't know what to do, right? Everyone talks about it at dinner parties, like, what are we going to do? It's AI and it's all this digital thing. We try to, get on the devices and put our parent controls. Um, but we just don't have a playbook. And I think you have done a wonderful job of creating a literal playbook.
Yeah,
Not
try.
only with your layers that you've spoken about, but also it's not that you're just preaching big ideas and you're actually implementing, how to do it. And so that connection is super important. And so once, we wrap here today, I'm going to talk to you about maybe putting something together for you. But
Thank you. That's
um,
so kind.
y- yeah, of course. I guess I'll close with this because we're running out of time here a little bit. If you had to point to, look, well, everything you said was important, but obviously going to your website and getting educated. What are kind of the first steps? What are the things you would highlight to do first to
Yeah.
to start this journey as a parent?
What I typically tell dads is pick one relational step and one technical step. Pick one thing relational, right? One conversation, one connection, one intentional moment, one, I'm going to square up and look at my kid. Just pick one relational step. That's it. And then turn that into doing it again so it becomes more habit, right? Just more of a thing. And then take one
Yeah.
technical thing. We talked about a lot of different technical ideas, whether it's the apps that they use. Maybe your kid uses YouTube and you're thinking, I've never even checked the settings. So go to our website, read the ultimate guide to YouTube, and just make sure the settings are in the right spot. So just pick one of each and then build from there. That's it. And forget everything else I've said because I know it. But come back and listen and then grab another relational or another technical and just build these things. Digital trust is not built overnight. It's step by step, chat by chat, little bit at a time. And I think it'll work.
Thanks, Chris. Chris, before we wrap here, I know you got to go. What website? Just go ahead and other resources you have. You can let us know. I'll also put in the show notes, but we'll let you have that, and then we'll let you go.
Yeah, just head to the website, protectyoungeyes.com. If you type Protect Young Eyes into any social media platform, particularly Facebook or Instagram, you'll also find us there. We have videos also on YouTube, so pretty easy to find.
Thanks, Chris. Doing God's work. Appreciate you. Keep it up.
Thanks,
We'll support
Josh.
you where we can.
Okay.
Take care. Thanks for walking the last easy mile with me. If something in today's episode moved you, good. That means there's still something alive in you worth pursuing. But don't let it end here. Send the message, try the thing, start the shift. If this episode helped, like, subscribe, and share with someone else who might be feeling stuck. You never know who needs to hear exactly this. I'm Josh Farahi. Until next time, keep walking.